visit us on pixelsift.com.au.
Earlier today, I spoke to William, Ari and Dave from Adelaide's Team Cherry. They're working on the beautiful Hollow Knight. It's a platformer that's set in a fallen kingdom. They told us all about how it came together.
My name's Ari Gibson. I'm the animator, artist, a whole bunch of things like that on Hollow Knight.
Yeah, I'm William. I'm the lead designer.
Sure.
Yeah.
And Dave, I'm the lead programmer.
So could you tell me a little bit about the game that you guys are working on at the moment and close to finishing?
Yeah, it's like a 2D action adventure platformer game. The basic idea is that you're in this nice ruined old kingdom full of insects. And then it's a big exploration. So the idea is that you are you've come to the kingdom for some mysterious reason. You go exploring, you delve deeper and deeper and find other characters and monsters and stuff.
You also fight epic bosses and uncover dark secrets and all sorts of, twisted things.
Yeah, speaking of the darkness of it, it has got a very visceral sort of image to it in the way that the world's kind of been created. Can you tell me a little bit how you kind of came up with this idea and what were some of the inspirations behind making the game look the way it does?
We sure can. I think, it started, the character itself was probably the base of it, and the character came from another game that William and I had created with another friend for a game jam. So it was a short weekend game jam that was a little bit different from this. That game was called Hungry Knight, which was a top-down game, and a little bit different in style, but the main character and even the sprite for the main character was the same. So another game jam popped up, Ludum Dare, I think, Ludum Dare, and we thought, why don't we give this one a go as well? And for that one, we were building what is essentially the basis for Hollow Knight, so an underground platformer style game. And because with game jams you don't have a lot of time, we just ripped the sprite from Hungry Knight as the main character, and eventually that game sort of evolved beyond the game jam scale and became Hollow Knight. A lot of the style, the visual style probably just builds from that game jam concept. So simple, quick. It's an insect world, probably because you think about insects as being relatively easy to animate and create in kind of game jam timeframes. It has a monotone sort of palette, so it starts largely blue and black because we didn't have time to think about color. And if you have a lot of black, you can use it to hide a lot of things. So there's less of a requirement to do very extensive art. And then there's probably an effective element to that as well, which is that it starts to get a bit evocative and people use their mind, their imaginations to perceive what's, or to fill in the blanks, exactly.
Is it difficult not going too far with adding extra bits and pieces as you're moving along in a project?
Yes, it is.
It is hard to say no to an idea that makes you laugh.
We rarely say no to those ideas, so we've done pretty well.
All right, we've pretty much cut off new stuff now.
Yeah, now that we're at the tail end, we've certainly added a lot of things because you're absolutely right. That temptation is always there, and we're very, very, very bad at denying ourselves the enjoyment of creating more.
We did cut some stuff, to be fair, some areas. Although the game, all up, the game is. We're pretty happy with how it's ended up content-wise. There's a lot of secrets to find, a lot of hidden characters to talk to, a lot of sort of little hidden touches and extra bosses, and heaps and heaps of fights are in there as well.
Now, you launched a successful Kickstarter for Hollow Knight, and one part of that was a stretch goal where you included porting the game to Wii U. Can you tell me a little bit about the motivations for doing that?
we'd started talking a bit about it. I mean, it wasn't necessarily a concrete plan at all when we started the Kickstarter, but it was something that we had considered. And after we spoke to Nintendo, I mean, we definitely said that we weren't going to offer it as a stretch goal or anything until we'd actually spoken to Nintendo a bit first, and then they contacted us. And we also had a lot of feedback from backers and stuff who were keen to get it on the Wii U. So that all contributed to the decision, like maybe halfway through, to make a Wii U stretch goal when we released our stretch goals.
Do you think it's dangerous having console releases as part of the stretch goals? I noticed you also had the PS Vita as one of the other platforms you'd like to bring the game to.
It can be. Yeah, definitely can be. I mean, when you haven't tread that ground yet, but definitely the demand was there. I think.
Yeah, Kickstarters are probably inherently dangerous anyway, right? So
yeah, I mean, you might not even finish the game in the end.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and some of them do fall over. You have to be a bit responsible. So, like William was saying, we made sure that we had long conversations with Nintendo to ensure that it was feasible for us, that we could publicize it, and also it was around that point that we were talking about switching over to the Unity, the cross-platform engine, which would allow us to much more easily get it onto something like the Wii U and other platforms. So the Wii U, I suppose the Wii U stretch goal was also bringing with it the idea for us that we would switch into a new engine, and then that would, and then ultimately that gave us a lot of benefits in production. It brought along some additional complexity, but it did help a long way in actually making the game sort of work at the scale that it is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who are sort of really passionate about one or two consoles. So you know, when you set a stretch goal for whichever console, you get a lot of enthusiasm from a section of people, and from, like, you know, Sony or Nintendo news sites and stuff will often pick you up. So there is some benefit there too.
And we also have a personal interest in releasing on platforms like the Wii U, because we have Wii U's and we'd like to see titles like Hollow Knight on there, and we like to have those, you know, other games, especially when there's a limited selection at the moment.
Do you think that's the sort of thing I'm trying to get at, is basically, you know, the Wii U has, for a lot of people, fallen sort of by the wayside. You know, there is a sort of an extra cost and a cost benefit as well of putting time into bringing it over to a new platform like that. You know, say, for example, if you'd been committed to something like the PS Vita, which has had a similar sort of experience, how would you sort of approach that if you had to say to people that maybe it's not worth it for us to do it anymore, or, you know, the economics of it don't make sense?
Well, I mean, if you get to that point, I mean, one of our main things with the Kickstarter, because we've also, like, because we set up our original release date and have since gone past it, but what we've done is we've been careful to communicate the whole time with backers and keep them updated, you know, about what's happening, where we are. So we've not hit that yet, but if something like that comes up, I think what you have to do is just, you know, be sort of honest and open with people, let them know where you are and what you've tried and what your plans are for the future. And we've seen it happen with other Kickstarters, I think, where they've had to change their console goals. And
saying that, we're not, like, the reason we're doing Wii U build is like, also, sorry, I should say the reason that we're successful at all as a product is in a large part because of people who want the game on the Wii U. So we have an onus to deliver to them, and we also obviously want to. We like having the relationship with Nintendo. We'd love to continue a relationship with Nintendo into the future. We think there's an inverse element to, say, like you're saying, the console heading towards the end of its life, which is that less games are coming out on the platform. But those few games that come out that are really good can really stand out because they're not swamped by all of these other titles. And a lot of, especially some of the very good independent titles that have come out on Wii U, have done really, really well because they're not drowned out by 100 AAA giant blockbuster kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard like a few indie games have actually reported bigger sales on Wii U.
And Nintendo themselves have been hugely supportive of bringing it to Wii U and promoting it worldwide, which obviously gives us immense benefit when we're here in Adelaide without that much ability to reach out to the world ourselves.
You can follow Team Cherry on at Team Cherry Games on Twitter. You can visit their site, which is teamcherry.com.au. You can head over to hollowknight.com. Should be coming out into the future at some point. The guys at Team Cherry will kind of, when it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
And this
Kind of like this podcast.
When it's done, it's done. With that, let's jump into our next topic.